if the young woman, the wife to be, then finds herself being intimate with someone outside of her husband, what will happen is she will learn how to be a wife in an intimate way to someone who she does not belong to. Mm. And then when she finds herself in the presence of her true husband.
Go ahead.
When she finds herself...
I got a pee, but...
when she finds herself in the presence of her true husband, what will happen is she will begin to perform duties as a wife. She will begin to function as a wife to someone that is not him. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another All Things Marriage. We are your hosts, Derek
and Crystal.
And yeah, I know we missed you last week.
Yes.
But life happens, and it's okay.
Life happens, as well as we're trying to practice a little bit more of taking more downtimes throughout the year, and not just and drop off the face of the earth at the end of the year.
Yeah. Not trying to and also not trying to like force the content, all of those things, right? Letting it kind of come natural. That being said, not a lot of announcements or anything like that this week, but with the exception of March of Prayers.
Yes, March of Prayers is coming
up. If you guys have been following us, if you were a part last year, then during the month of March, each week we had a guest on that did a little bit of a teaching and then prayer concerning a specific aspect of family, relationship, etc. And we're going to do that again this year. Yes. So be on the lookout for that starting the first Sunday in March. And we'll be releasing those on Sunday afternoons. Yeah, so first Sunday in March begins our March of Prayers. So be here, stay tuned, and yeah. So yeah, other than that, we're going to jump right into this week's conversation. Yes. What are we talking about, my dear sweet?
Well, this year, we're focusing on leading in excellence.
Okay.
So a lot of our topics, a lot of the conferences, the different activities, we're focusing on leading in excellence within our families, within our lives.
Right.
So today, we're going to talk about none other than headship.
Okay. Cool beans.
Yeah, as it pertains to relationships and families.
Sure. Yeah. So let's start by giving a quick definition of headship. Okay. And this is not, again, this is a Derek and Crystal definition, right? It's not like the technical definition. Right. Like that's not what we're doing. Right. But so I would define headship, and then you can tell me what you think it means, right? I would define headship as the concept, the idea, and the structural integrity of leadership.
Okay.
And with whatever aspect, whether it be work, church, family, whatever the avenue or the venue that you're in, it's that structural leadership or that structural integrity and idea and concept of what it means to lead a person or a group of people. That would be my idea or definition of what headship is.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think it would be consistent. It's constant. It's not something that necessarily interchanges. We understand that there are moments that headship can change.
Sure.
However, when we're setting up the structure of the family, spiritually, biblically, there's a constant. There is no you're in headship or you're the role of headship for this year, and then next year we do something different.
So would you say then that it's leadership that changes, but headship is what stays the same?
Yes.
Okay. Cool beans.
Yeah.
So with definitions, let's start the discussion of what headship looks like in the family, in the familial arena, right? What headship looks like from the perspective of, or through the lens of fatherhood, husbandship, everything within the interpersonal relationship of family, right? And I will allow you to go first.
Why?
Because why not?
That for me, that looks like the person that is not the only person making rules. No. However, it's the end all be all, of setting rules, setting the structure of how the family is going to operate, how the company is going to operate. They may delve out titles, they may delve out duties and responsibilities. They also are kind of what sets the tone for consequences and punishments, as well as rewards and gifts or prizes, rather, for appropriate behavior, proper behavior, or going above and beyond, excelling or whatever. So these individuals, mostly the men of the household, because we're talking about families and relationships, they also, because we know good leadership, because it's a part of headship, good leadership takes on the understanding of the individuals that you're working with, and they see the strengths and the weaknesses. That goes back into delving out responsibilities and duties. I take in consideration the individuals within the family, and I set rules as well as I set instructions based off of your strengths and your weaknesses.
Okay. And I'm glad I don't have to be the bad guy here. Because you said, you the woman,
yes,
said primarily or mostly headship belongs to the men. Why do you say that?
I mean, that's the order of the way my God, Father of Jesus.
Sure.
That's the way he structured it. And me as the woman, like you said, I'm maybe I'm not, I'm like the only one by myself out here. However, I'm glad I don't have to worry about certain things.
Right.
Or I mean, yeah, we may worry at some point, but I know at the end of the day, I look to my husband and I say, he got it. I trust and believe that he got it. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's just how it, and we look at it, no, you're not God. Let's put that disclaimer out there.
Sure.
You are not God. You are not my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, okay? However, and also, you are my image bearer, because that's what we are. That's biblical. That's scripture.
I like that term.
Yes, you are my image bearer of what Christ is to the church.
Okay.
Again, still in the Bible, still in the book. Read your scriptures before you come for me, okay? So if I can trust God to provide my needs and to take care of me in the areas where I cannot take care of myself,
right,
or I don't see a way out, I trust that you will do the same on the natural level as he does in the spiritual level. Okay. That you'll take care of,
and
what needs to be taken care of.
I would go so far as to say, if things are done properly, and you find yourself in the structure is proper,
right,
and you find yourself in a situation where you cannot trust me,
right,
I would go so far as to say that by extension you can't trust God, right, or you don't know how to trust God, because, like you said, as the husband, that puts me in the role of image bearer of God's relationship with his church and with his people.
And I hear the people. We're all image bearers. I understand. Yes. However, in the family structure,
right? Yeah.
As me looking to my husband,
yeah,
he is like, okay, you supposed to be for real, showing me how God treat the church.
Right.
You're supposed to show me how God is treating his bride.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And scripture even says, and I do not understand for the life of me why right in this very second, I cannot remember book, chapter, verse.
Mm-hmm.
But the scripture does say that the wives are to obey their husbands as they would obey Christ.
Is that in Romans or Ephesians?
I want to say it's Corinthians, but I'm not gonna lie.
You know what?
I want to say it's. But
I'm not a Bible chapter book verse person. Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna say the scripture say it does.
Yeah, but
let's go find it.
Don't quote me on the Corinthians thing right this second. I will find it and maybe throw it in the description, or somewhere in here on the screen. But but if you don't see it when I'm doing this, then just look in the description. But no, it says that the wives are to submit to the husband, obey the husband like they would Christ. But then it also says that husbands are to love their wives like Christ loved the church.
And we are all image bearers.
Right.
But it's just, Lord. Yes, Lord. It's like the church. We're all one body, but we have different functions. We're all image bearers, but we bear a different version, or not version, but a different image of God, or a characteristic of God.
That's the word.
Sorry.
That's right.
Sorry. I was just like,
that's about to take
download
me to a whole nother different point.
download.
But no, but it says, husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church. And here's the part that we like to stop at. We don't get to this part, even if we say that first half of that. We don't take the B clause, where it says, and gave himself as a sacrifice to present her back to himself as good and acceptable. Right.
Because we have to realize that we're God. We're God's, his possession already. Right. But then I have to put you through the washer, the dryer, and then present you back to myself. That's the whole purpose of Jesus. Right. Yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah. It's the whole. I like analogies, right? I like analogies, and it's kind of like when you're preparing a meal, right? You don't take the food out of the refrigerator or out of the garden or from the store and just sit it on the table and start eating it. You prepare the food, you chop it up, you prune and pare to cut away the things that are not pleasing to yourself. Right. And there is a molding that has to take place. There is a forming that has to take place. And especially in like making of bread, right? Sometimes you have to knead it or apply pressure to a thing until it begins to give way to what it is that you're trying to do. As long as there is resistance there, then it is not yet ready to be made into its perfect form. You have to knead it and mold it and apply pressure until it gives to your will and your desire. And then you apply heat to the meal, to the food, and allow it time to bake, allow it time to mature, allow it time to cultivate, and then once it has been made perfect, then you plate it or present it back to yourself as good and acceptable and as perfect.
This is why we had this conversation yesterday about fixing the plate and bringing it to your man. This is the whole, I go out and get the bacon and bring the bacon to you. Right. And then you cook the bacon and bring it back to me.
And you present it back to me as something that is acceptable to me. As something that I would desire for myself. Same thing. As something that I would desire to myself, right? And so that's that is the nature of the relationship. And to that point, in the vein of headship and in the vein of leadership, as the husbandman, if your relationship, men, I got you.
I was about to say, which camera was you looking at?
I just want to make sure everybody knows. Men, I am talking directly to you. If your relationship is not successful,
Right.
it is on you. It is a failure on your part. Here is why. Because it is your responsibility to make sure and ensure that you yourself are the image of what the relationship should look like. Mm-hmm. And then you are leading by example and presenting the woman, your spouse, your partner, to yourself as something that is acceptable to you. And
that's crazy. It's for the men in the house. I'm pretty sure that's so much. You mean to tell me that's all I gotta do all that? What is she doing? And we clearly had the conversations about what do women bring to the table other than sex, because that was like this whole big old ordeal on social media and stuff like that. Right. So from based on what you're saying is, I don't want to say that because I clearly know as a woman that's not the only thing we bring to the table. But for the sake of their argument, the men argument that were in that conversation, I'm not gonna say all men.
Right.
But basically, if all she bring is sex, you're supposed to teach her how to bring more, basically, or to develop more with what you've given her.
Yes, that is.
Now, she's supposed to bring more. Okay, look at me.
Now,
as a woman, bring more to the table than just sex.
So with that, now we're gonna pivot a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's great. This is good conversation. We're going to pivot a little bit to the headship of the role of the father. And so, to your point, in what you were just saying, if all she can bring to the table is sexuality, is sexual stimulation, and yes, it is your responsibility as the husband to present a relationship to her that is not sex-based, such that she can learn the nature of womanhood that is acceptable to you. However, and also,
excuse me, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're great. However, and also, if the father is in the picture and the headship of the father is present as designed in perfection and in purity, then the husband has already taught and groomed and matured her in such a way that she understands what womanhood looks like outside of the realm of sexuality. And it is the husband's job to teach her the sexual aspect of womanhood as it pertains to her being a wife to him, right? And so it is the father who grooms the daughter and cultivates the daughter, matures the daughter. The word, oh my gosh, I cannot grab it right now because I want to use a certain verse. You know, one of my favorites, but we're not gonna go there. But we'll use cultivate for the time being. Okay. It is the father's duty to cultivate the young lady as well as the young man, but to cultivate the young lady to be the type of woman that a man would desire to marry. Right. He is supposed to groom her and teach her and show her what to expect from men as well as what men expect from her. Right. And then her example of how those lessons are implemented is her mother and the relationship that her mother has with her father. Right. Right. So the father said, so for example, the father says, it is the expectation of manhood that when he provides a place for you to stay, a place of safety and comfort and security, when he arrives in that place of security, you make sure it is a place of rest for him. And then mother says, this is what it means, or this is what it looks like to make a safe place a resting place. Which means his bed is made when he's ready to go to sleep. Right. His food is on the table when he's ready to eat. His drink is there when he is tired and worn and he is hot and he needs a refresher. Mom shows you what that looks like, but dad sets the establishment. Right. the fatherhood, the headship of father establishes the pattern and the structure.
Right. And we said in the boundary setting videos, if you haven't catch them, go back to them.
Right.
We talked about modeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is not a conversation. Okay, so baby, you do da 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 da.
Right.
And when he come in, you do da da. It's modeling the behavior, and then sometimes yes, we instruct verbally,
right,
and we give those lessons and stuff.
Right.
But the main things when we look back on it, we modeled the behavior for our children, and that's what stuck in their brain.
Right, and so in that modeling, like I said, father sets the pattern. Fatherly headship establishes what it looks like to be a wife. Mm-hmm. Or what it looks like to be an acceptable wife to an acceptable man. And he models the behavior of the man who is acceptable, right? And then mother models the behavior of the standard that father has set with the making of the bed, with the preparing of the food, with the washing of the hands and the feet and the whatever, the massages, all of the things that dad has established is what needs to be done to make this safe place a resting place, right? And then mother models the behavior of, at some point there needs to be a time of intimacy. Right. At some point, there needs to be a time where you and your husband, man, steals away from everyone. Where you go into isolation, you go into your secret place, and there is a time and there is a moment that is just for you and him. That is isolated and that is separated, that is sanctified and holy from the rest of everyone else and everything else that is going on. And then when you are introduced to the man who is to be your husband, then that husband shows you and models to you what that place of sanctification looks like, what that place of consecration and connection and intimacy entails to be the wife that he desires you to be.
Right, because that's why we said certain things you can model.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Certain things you have to verbally instruct and say, during this time, we talk about the birds and the bees clearly. During this time, when a man and a woman love each other, you know how they say,
very much.
So you have those conversations. You instruct. Now the men may talk to the boys, the women may talk to the girls. However, you're setting an environment if the daughter says, "Hey, Dad, I want to talk to you about X, Y, and Z." There's still a level of comfortability and ability for the child to come to you with those questions.
And can I deviate for just a second?
Sure, we done pivoted a couple times.
This is why it is important that both a man and a woman are sexually virtuous upon the point of marriage. Because what happens is if things are done properly, right, and the father has instructed the daughter on what womanhood and what wifeship looks like, what womanhood and what wifeship looks like, and the mother has modeled the behavior of all of the aspects of what womanhood and wifeship looks like, with the exception of intimacy, only up until the point of there is a time that it is necessary. If the young lady, if the young woman, the wife to be, then finds herself being intimate with someone outside of her husband, what will happen is she will learn how to be a wife in an intimate way to someone who she does not belong to. And then when she finds herself in the presence of her true husband.
Go ahead.
When she finds herself...
I gotta pee but...
When she finds herself in the presence of her true husband, what will happen is she will begin to perform duties as a wife. She will begin to function as a wife to someone that is not him.
Pen. Okay. So I don't want to have Bible study and all that stuff right now. But, however, from that example, it's just how we as a society, as a world, has perverted the things of God. Because in this instance, I've taken something that has been ordained and blessed by God between a husband and a wife, and I've taken it outside of the context of his covenant, and I've experienced it with someone else. That's just like when they talk about how witches and stuff, they do blood sacrifices and stuff. They've taken blood sacrifices, which is a biblical thing, with the shedding of blood,
and offered it to another god.
They've offered it to another god, and this is the same thing. And yes, that's deep, that's too much, that's Old Testament,
It's not.
But the principles of God have not changed since the beginning.
Right.
They are still there. If we, for real, submitted ourselves and studied and tried and worked to live a life based on the principles of God, outside of, oh, it's the New Testament, we can do what we want to,
right.
We would see so many, and that's why I said I didn't want to have Bible study, but we went there. But we would see so many of the miracles and the blessings and the hand of God, as well as the face of God,
right?
That the Old Testament people saw,
right? Because there was an understanding of the purification that has to take place in order to encounter and interact with God.
Right.
You cannot interact with a being of purity in an impure fashion.
This weekend, purity, huh?
Right.
Okay.
And so, but so anyway, to my point,
sorry.
what I was saying was then. So when the young lady has given herself, even if all the other aspects of the family dynamic and everything was done 100% perfectly, if she then gives herself to someone who is not her husband prior to the consecration of marriage, then she learns the nature of what it is to be a wife. Right. What it is to be connected in such an intimate way that it makes you one with the person.
Right.
That it binds you to a person. She learns the nature of that thing from someone that is not her husband.
Yep.
And then so when she meets her husband and when she comes to the point of being the wife to the husband, she will then be a wife that is not his. Right. And she will start performing and acting as a wife.
That whole scripture of you have 5 husbands in the
I was about to get there. I was getting there. I was running to it.
Right.
She will begin to behave as the wife to someone else. So she, in essence and in all honesty, she will be in adultery with her husband because she is being the wife that is not his. And to your point, like you said, this is what Jesus meant when he was talking to the Samaritan woman and asked her where her husband was, and she was just like, I don't have one, or he's not here, or whatever. And he was just like, right, you don't have a husband. You got 5, and the one that you're with isn't yours. How could she have had 5 husbands?
Yep.
And then a 6th husband that wasn't hers because she had yielded herself in such a way, and she had taken on the responsibility of wifeship in such a way to so many people that she could not be a wife. And let's turn it on to the sons.
You took a godly principle, a godly covenant, and you experienced the goodness of it. Not even the goodness of it. You experience the benefits of it. Right. Outside of God.
Outside of the nature of God. And so now let's look at the husbands, because let's look at the husbands, let's look at the sons, let's look at it from the posture of headship, because I do not want to absolve or excuse the young men.
Okay.
When everything is done appropriately and properly in the home and all things are well, and then the young man decides to step out and sow his wild oats and experience the world, gain some experiences. I gotta know what I need to do when come time to do it. Right. What then happens with him is, similarly to the young woman becoming a wife to someone that's not him, what he then does is he begins to mold and create a vision of wifeship, a vision of of what it means to be his wife from someone that is not his wife. And then when the wife comes along, he holds her to standards that she was never designed or created to meet.
Yeah.
He creates standards based on a compilation, a culmination of all of his many experiences.
Right.
And so now you're holding one person to the standard of, since the number was 5 biblically, you're holding the one person to the standard of 5 people.
Yeah.
To the abilities, if you will, to the functionalities of 5 different individuals.
Right.
And you know how we do as people.
Right.
We're not taking all the things and saying all the good, all the bad. We're like, no, this was the best thing here, the best thing here, the best thing here. And now I've molded this thing that is this idol that you have created in your mind, this altar to this thing that doesn't even exist in your mind that you have created, and you're holding this woman to this standard that no one will be able to live up to. And so now you've created an environment, a marriage scenario, a partnership in which neither person can be the person that the other one needs, because they're basing the need off of the culmination of other people.
Right. And how does that, in headship terms, how does coming into a relationship that, or a covenant, a marriage, after being sexually involved with other individuals, you've made covenants with them, when you're now saying, okay, let me do things the right way and marry this woman, how does that affect the marriage and the family?
Well, for one, you begin to
break it all down. Put it all down.
For one, you begin to lead from a false throne. Right? You find yourself set on this pedestal. You find yourself set on this throne in a kingdom that is not yours. Right? And so as a king, if you are in the seat of authority, you are in the seat of power, but you are trying to lead this kingdom as if it were the kingdom over here, then what you will find yourself doing is you will be leading your people in error. You will be leading your people, you will be leading your constituents in such a way that, again, they are not equipped to perform and to lead. You will begin to take archers into hand-to-hand combat, and they are not designed to do that. You will begin to when it comes to raising the children, now you have an image of what leadership and what rulership looks like. And as a king, as the king of your family, as a biblical king, your job is not to rule. Your job is to serve the kingdom. This is where we misunderstand what it means to be in a position of authority.
Say that to that camera.
True authority is not the ability or the power to rule a people, but to serve a people. No king, and the reason why no earthly kingdom has stood the test of time, has existed throughout history in perpetuity. Why could I not say that word?
You sounded like me.
Right. In perpetuity is because that every instance of a king, a ruler, if you will, they call them rulers, is a person who rises to authority and attempts to rule a nation, to tell a nation what to do, to put the nation into a posture of subservience, meaning to serve under, to serve to. And that is not the nature of a king. A true king, a true leader, a true headship leads from a posture of service. In that, in order for me to ensure that my people treat me the way that I desire as their king, in order to ensure that my people give me what I need as the king, I must ensure that my people have everything that they need. That they live in comfort and in excellence and in increase and in abundance. If you are a king ruling a people, you will ultimately find yourself ruling a people impoverished. You will ultimately find yourself ruling a people in lack. And if we've learned anything from modern society, Western society specifically, or just but the world at large, when a population finds themselves in lack, they soon find themselves in error, in rebellion, in violence, and ultimately in uprising against the rulership, against the leadership, because you have not done the things that I need. You have not provided me with what I need, so I must fight against you to get what I need. Right? This is when we find the mother and the father at odds. This is when we find mom and dad, husband and wife arguing, bickering, fussing, and now we gotta separate.
Right.
Because, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. Because men, it's on you. It's your responsibility to love the wives as Christ loved the church. For you to be the sacrifice, but because you weren't the sacrifice, you weren't leading, you weren't serving, you were ruling.
Right.
The wife now has to buck up against you, has to rebel against you to continue to feel as if she is a woman. In order to remain herself, in order to keep that semblance of womanhood, that semblance of self that she needs in order to truly feel safe, she has to fight against you, the person who's supposed to be protecting her.
Right.
And then the children see you fighting, and the children and the sons learn the behavior of, in order to keep a woman in line, you gotta rule with an iron fence.
Right.
And the daughters learn that in order to survive as a woman, you have to be independent and do things without a man in your life.
Right.
And that is not the design.
Right, because we're cultivating in them
Right.
how they should interact with one another, as well as how they should be as a woman or a man.
Right, 100%. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking now because,
That was good.
We can take this.
That was good.
We can take this
Right.
further.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. But no, that's and we kind of deviated a little bit from the original topic, or from the original vein that we were.
But it's deep like that. It's deep like that.
100%.
When you start talking about headship, when you start talking about family, the structure, the different things, spiritual and natural, that go into families and relationships and marriages and stuff like that, it's deeper than. This is why I get so frustrated when people be like, marriage is just a piece of paper, and you feel like you can come and go as you please, and
American marriage is just a piece of paper,
and you can do whatever you want to. If today I just don't like you, I've been in this rut for about a month now, I just go ahead and pack my stuff up and leave.
Yeah.
And it's so much deeper than just that. And I feel like a lot of times we have so many issues within our relationships because we don't fully understand, and we haven't fully accepted that God knows best.
Right.
And he has set a structure that no one can beat it. You can't adjust it. You can't rearrange it. The way he set it up, if you follow that standard, then you would see so many blessings, so many successes and different stories within our marriages, because I have gotten the blueprint, and it's from God, and this is how we're gonna roll.
Right.
We find ourselves in a rut when we try to deviate and do things differently than what God has created.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that as from a seat of we didn't try different things and we didn't experience different things in our dating phases that were outside of the realm of
the design and the will.
Right. We're not saying that we didn't experience those things, that we didn't actively do something different. However, we have realized coming into our relationship and our marriage that baby, you ain't
There's-
gonna find no better
Right. There's
design.
there's a design. There is a reason and a purpose behind the way
Right.
marriage was initially designed
Right.
and structured. And when you start finding yourselves functioning outside of that
Yeah.
structure, then you quickly run into issues.
Yeah.
You run into troubles. You run into and that doesn't mean that you can't right the ship. That doesn't mean that you can't course correct.
Of course not.
Like, because I'm an avid believer that everyone's relationship, and when it pertains to marriage specifically, everyone's marriage is unique
Right.
to them.
Yep.
And what you need to survive in your marriage, what your marriage needs to survive and to stand the test of time, is not the same thing that my marriage
Right.
needs to survive and stand the test of time with respect to the intricate details.
Right.
However, the structure of the thing, the foundation of the thing is what
Is
it
a
is.
foundation.
First and foremost, but it is what it is. The load bearing pieces and the structural foundation have to be what they have to be,
Right.
and then all of the other things are your design implementations. They're your externals. There's your intricacies of the relationship.
Right.
Can be whatever they need to
Right.
be. Right, but you have to have the foundation there, and if you don't,
Right.
you don't stand a chance. That's
Right.
just what it is.
And you can't find a better foundation than God and His principles.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And I'm gonna stop apologizing for using biblical,
Yeah.
because if you're watching our channel, you should know that we're
You
Christians.
already know what
So
I
we're
mean.
gonna throw our biblical, scriptures and biblical understanding and principles in there.
Right.
And hopefully you learn something about marriage as well as Christ.
Sure.
But yeah, this has been an excellent conversation.
Right.
I know that I've gotten a great deal from it, and I'm in the conversation. But we hope you guys have also gotten something from it. We would love for you to jump in the conversation.
Yeah.
In the comment section, share this video. Share this video. Share this video. Like it, give us a thumbs up if you're new to the channel. Subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We're also on TikTok. We have a new account on IG, but find us. Okay, we're there.
Right. And that's it.
Yeah. So until next week, guys, we love you and bye.